Don't really matter. We'll have whatever we have.
Yeah. This past week, I've been working on this new project. It's been about 3 weeks, and I'm down over like Golden State and Chestnut, and we're doing remediation to the land over there. So we're working soil, we're working with like excavators and stuff like that. But the past like 3 weeks has been like 60-hour weeks, beast mode. And we get a 2-week break here starting this upcoming week. I'm still working, but I'm not like on site. So things are slowing down this 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's really been my life the past couple of weeks, just getting there every day, same time. And again, I'm dressing up in the full hazmat suit, like full hazmat suit. Yeah, like the full PPE, like the respirator, full head respirator, the gloves, the fucking full coverall fit. There's lead, PCBs, GPHs in the soil. So we have excavators out there with like a sieve bucket, and it hits the ground. It scoops out everything that's over 4 inches. And then we mix in this stuff called EnviroBlend, which is like a gelatin. So all this stuff that's in the soil, when it gets wet, it turns to jelly, so it doesn't leach down to the groundwater. It stays where it's at. And so I've been sampling all that the past 3 weeks.
And that's primarily why you're there, is just sampling.
Yeah, sampling
and
observation.
Is anybody any other company that's there doing anything else?
Intact. They're the actual contractor. So there's the client, the consultant, and the contractor. The client is U.S. Cold Storage. The consultant is Geosyntec, and the contractor is Intact. And Intact's doing like the excavator, heavy machine operation, the hauling, So they're doing all that, and we're doing supervision and sampling. So it's been like huge days,
Yeah, I bet.
12-hour days, like 6:30 to 6:30.
Summertime, so
That's what I was saying. I was like, dude, and there's no way we could have done it because everything's about dust suppression. So as soon as the bucket picks it up, if it's dry material, it hits the ground, puff of dust, because all the dust is now inhaled stuff. So we do it in the winter, and they have like power washers. So every time a bucket goes in, they spray it so any dust gets wet and falls out. So it's been like a huge operation. But blue collar dudes, man, they crack me up. I work with a bunch of blue collar dudes. In the morning, they come in and there's always a new story. There's this guy named Jesse, and he has a girl at that Airbnb every single day. He brought one. No, I think he's from Texas. We got people from Texas, Florida, Pittsburgh, like a bunch of different places. And they came in like a couple days, like, oh, Jesse got a new wife. Like, she refused to leave, Like, he was like, hey, like, going to work, you gotta go. She's like, like, can I just sleep a little bit more? So, there's always a new story with the blue collar dude. So it's been pretty cool to kind of the dynamic of the crew. Yeah, so I've been having to like manage that and get to know everybody. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really big job. So these next couple checks are gonna be real nice.
That's what's up. So what are you working, like 12 hours a day?
Yeah, so the last two days, I'm usually working like 11 and a half to 12 hours a day.
True. That's sick though, dude. That's sick.
Yeah. They were like, well, if we don't hit 60, we're gonna have to work Saturday and Sunday. I was like, sure. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do an 80-hour good fun.
Girls working like
and all the guys that were on like the excavator, the most needed people were like the excavator and the truck drivers, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm not coming in Saturday. I'm not doing it. I'm not coming in. So we better hurry up. So that whole like last 2 days was running. I'm helping them do their job. But like, I do not want to fucking fuck my next 2 months up, So there were the last 2 days I worked. No, the last 3 days I worked 36 of 72 hours.
Anybody from Colorado?
No.
I was saying getting good with them, get that network going.
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm keeping my eyes open. I've got a couple. Like AEG has a Mile High chapter in Colorado, and I'm going to their meetings, so I'm getting to know some people. And so once I have this opportunity, I'm definitely trying to send.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. And then, what are you guys' Christmas plans?
I'm working
on Christmas
time. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not like this. Our holidays have been pretty. It's usually just me and my mom and Dante.
Yeah.
Me and my mom and Dante. So I don't really like do too much. We kind of just like spend time with each other from there. Just like kind of like take it in.
Yeah.
That's really like I've never been. I think when I was a kid, I really enjoyed like the Christmas giving, but I was always like I just like being with you, like just being like the time and like gift giving is nice, but like hopefully it's like wow do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
I fucking hate the gift giving, dude. Honestly, like I feel like it's like a gift and a curse. I'm like, guys, like we don't gotta do this shit. Like I just like hanging out, you know. But,
go ahead.
nothing. Just like fucking like the fact that people get me stuff, my family. I'm like, I have to get you. Like you guys don't understand. Like I don't fucking want to do this, dog. But like,
Yeah,
I can just hang out.
Fucking older brother, my older cousin, like really tainted that shit for us too. Like my older cousin would get stuff from his mom, and like my older brother would say shit, and then it turned into like a year-long thing, and it turned into fights, like, and it just got real like to where they fucking just don't talk to each other anymore.
Jeez.
Not from Christmas, but just like little shit like that just started like building up. And so I don't think money mattered to our family, like part, but I don't know where they stand now, but it definitely like with moving and then him going to Tennessee and my cousin being in Vegas, like all of us are all over the place now. So we're just like, Merry Christmas, love you guys, hope you guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where was at now. But yeah, definitely like tainted the gift giving in my eyes.
Really? Damn.
Yeah, like
Oh, you got a PlayStation 2? Fuck you.
yeah.
Damn. But you know what? I'll say this. I went to Walmart today because I had to buy like my little cousins some shit, and I was in the Lego section, and I was like, damn, this shit's so sick. And like I got like some like Lego Star Wars shit that I thought I would like. So like for 2 seconds, I was like, I can see why people like this, but like that's about it, bro.
Awesome. I want my kid to experience that for sure. Like I'm not gonna take that away from my kid. Like I'm not gonna take your version of like what your Christmas should be. Like as a kid, I love Christmas. Like,
yeah.
Free. Yeah. Like dude, that shit is the best.
Right, I honestly kind of enjoyed buying the gifts for people this year.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Hell yeah.
It's hard for women. Like buying stuff for women's pretty tough.
Crazy.
But yeah, dude, I just like
Let's go to Victoria's Secret.
it's just here, mom. Here's
Bro, that's what I used to.
I didn't know that.
Like,
Ugh.
what I would do, you have like a gift section or like something that's like people are going to like. I would just ask the people.
Who's it for?
Yeah, like
My little sister.
but even like that.
Yeah, I usually get gifts for Daniel.
Yeah.
Only for the past like 2 years I have. And he's the only person that I'm like, yeah, I always get him something. It's cool to see him like still get excited when I get him like a like anime thing or like Godzilla. He fucking loves Godzilla. Like,
Godzilla.
he's still in the era where he loves all that shit like in his room, you know?
Yeah.
He's got like sick ass like stuff. I got him like a really cool One Piece statue. It was really expensive, but I was like, dude, he loves it. It's so cool. So I always get him stuff like that, and I kind of getting him like a tool or something because last year he got a fucking drill. And he loved the drill. He was like, I'm gonna go crazy with it. And he did. So I was like, fuck, what's like a cool tool I can get him or like something that like
Socket set.
He already got that.
Okay.
So I'm like, damn, man.
Jack stands.
Something like that, yeah. Fucking hard hat.
The wheel, the vent that has the little wheels on the bottom, so you can fucking like has the wheels on the music.
Yeah, he's good. He's been super into his Honda lately, and he's trying to convince my dad because he needs a new rack and pinion, and he's like, Dad, hear me out. He's like, if I just buy the parts, I can do it myself in the driveway. My dad's like, shut the fuck up, dude. You're not gonna do that. He's like, no, I can do it. He's like, I've watched YouTube tutorials. He got it like a few months ago.
It's what year is it?
I don't know, like 90 something. It's like
Oh shit, the beans, dude.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta do. When your first car has to be something like
He's
that.
over
You
here-
can appreciate
He's
it.
over here looking at like fucking like intakes and shit, and I'm like, Daniel, no, bro, don't do it. He's like, This was only $400. I'm like, if you show Uncle John that, he's gonna be like, what the fuck? Why did I build this thing? You're just gonna fucking like race this
Turn it.
around. Yeah.
Just turn it into the bean machine. Go do that.
You have the handle like the shifter.
Oh,
fucking
hell
hell
no.
long.
I was like, dude,
fucking badass.
just get the rack and pinion, bro. Just get it fixed.
Dude, it's all part of the arc though. He'll grow out of it, you know? Like he'll do that and then he'll grow out of it. Look, Jay's got a truck. Jay's got a truck now, you know?
I was like looking at shit for the truck. I was like, not bad. I'm not gonna do it, but like the next thing I was talking to David, I was like, the next thing's gonna be a roof rack because everything's gonna get put in the bed of the truck. But at nighttime when it's time to go to bed, throw that shit up top, you know?
Totally.
So
That's like I got here. That like that.
Dude, what you gotta get is the bike racks for the truck, then the whole bed's open too. Like on that Jeremy shit.
yeah.
The couch.
They have a bumper too that like opens up double door like this. And if you open it down, you have like a shelf so you can fucking put your camp stove there. And then on the outside of the bumper, you can put like fucking gas tanks, an extra tire.
Yeah.
And the other one opens up and you can put fucking, it's like the Swiss Army knife, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like looking at it, I'm like,
like that.
that's it someday, you know? But I found this channel called Team Oil Drop. And this guy has a 3rd generation Tacoma just like mine. And he does everything. He's like, it's all about maintenance. It's like, if you maintain your vehicle, because he has a Discord, he's like, we know Tacomas will last over 500,000 miles. And so he's like, here's how you do everything, like change differential fluid, fucking gear shaft, like all these different things, how to do these things. And fucking does a video for every single one.
It's all broken down.
It's broken down.
Damn, that's sick. That's
See,
fucking sick.
Daniel's on it right now. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, look, this guy fixes the rack and pinion in like half an hour. All right,
Yeah.
man.
Driving down the street and shit falls out. Yeah, they always make it look real nice and easy on the video. And then you get under there and the fucking bolt won't fucking move. You're like, oh. And like, I guess the Tacoma is the oil pan, like the drain plug. It's got like an Allen insert and it's torqued to like 45 pounds per square foot. So there's no way to get it done. You know what I mean? There's just no way. So you have to take it in. But that guy, he was like, replace it with a Lexus nut. And so you can actually grab the outside of it like a normal Honda one and fucking pull that thing out. So I've been watching videos like that too. Like
Nice.
you fall into it as soon as you get a new car, you get excited, you know?
That's fine.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
But I mean, the truck got a whole bunch of different shit in there. Whole different world. Cool. All right, you guys want to jump into it?
Yeah.
It's a whole new life.
16 through 23, finishing up part 1 today. Before we start, what are you guys' thoughts on like all of them together? Do you think it's a continuation of what we've been seeing, or
16th to 23.
Yeah.
I think I think he diverts a little bit. It's overarching, same narrative,
Yeah.
but I think he kind of goes into more detail rather than like perhaps.
yeah?
He gives a bit more detail on why he's stating what he's stating.
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely get into more detail.
Yeah, I think it's just a continuation of like, it's still the perhaps, but he's throwing out specific examples, and I think he really like went hard on the I think therefore I am,
Yeah.
and
The card.
he sticks to cause and effect pretty much the whole what I got from the rest of this chapter. Cause versus effect, and human psychology is being like just interpretations of it and not like truth. But 16 was one of my favorites, I think,
Why?
because I think I don't know, that's when you start talking about like I think, and like
True.
idea of like I think.
Is this the first time that he puts himself in any of the things?
I think so. Yeah, I think this is the one because he's like talking about himself, and there's this sentence on
That's true. I don't think I caught that.
there's a sentence on 16. It's a little bit in the middle. It says, in short, the assertion I think assumes that I compare my state at the present moment with other states of myself which I know, in order to determine what is, on account of this retrospective connection with further knowledge. And yeah, he just goes on, but it got me thinking about like my thoughts about like how when I think, is it really me thinking, or is it like my brain like telling it what to think, stuff like that. So I don't know, it's super deep, but like that. But
Nothing.
Yeah, these. I mean, it's still tough. You know what I mean? Still Nietzsche.
he's still like what I got is like, because I was using ChatGPT to help me too, and in a sense, like ChatGPT kept saying like he's saying that metaphysicists, psychologists, philosophers are like oversimplifying reality, and like we're like leaving out the possibility that all these things that we think are just byproducts of like our own interpretation of it. It's not theoretically true, you know, these things. It's just all subjective, really. He's like back on the subjective.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think you just described the entirety of part one. That's exactly what it is. It's like philosophy has neglected the underlying complexity of humans, and we make our judgments and philosophical statements based on prior biases that we have, whether that's emotion, experience, and all those different things. And this whole part one was basically like, here's all the different ways that our philosophy can reflect our personal bias. So I do think that that's kind of like an overarching theme for part one. What I really liked about 19 is he actually started to get into what will is, and like the will to power is his big thing. Yeah, he actually starts with the will, and so I'm excited to get to that. For 16, I'm actually pretty excited about this, guys. I made so for ChatGPT, I've had it create different forms of discussion, and so for our discussion of this book, I have one classified as aphorism reflection, and aphorism reflection will take the entire message, boil it down to its key takeaway points, will provide an overarching summary, provide questions that would prompt you to kind of further discuss the idea, and we'll go into definitions of terms that you might not know. So there's that classification, and then I have a segment by segment. So like lines 1 through 4, 5 through 9, like it'll go in segments. But so I have an aphorism reflection for the entirety of aphorism 16. And it breaks down the core ideas. So the first is the critique of immediate certainties. Nietzsche critiques those who believe in the concept of immediate certainties, such as I think or I will, claiming that these expressions contain hidden assumptions and contradictions. He views the reliance on these certainties as superficial understanding of the process of cognition. And so I think or I will are, you know, they're products of assumptions and contradictions that we have as individuals. The self as an illusion. Nietzsche challenges the notion of the self as the source or cause of thought. Instead, he suggests that thought arises independently of the self, which is mistakenly believed to be its origin. This challenges Cartesian philosophy, which posits I think, therefore I am.
So you're saying that ChatGPT said that he said that identity and thought are two different things?
Yes. That thoughts arise independently of the I, of the self.
Expand. I don't understand.
Here's the idea. I saw a commercial a long time ago, but it was like when we think of our thoughts, we think of ourselves on the side of a highway, sitting in some grass, and we look out onto the highway, and each car that passes by is a thought.
Okay, I think differently though, but keep going, because like I was gonna say like why I don't think they're separate, but okay.
And so we look at these thoughts, and we can hyperfixate on one car passing by, but we can also look at the highway as a whole, right? And so that these thoughts are external to us, the I, the self. It's us, the self, that determines which thought to pick and choose.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's the idea of it being external and independent of the self.
Yeah.
True.
Because like Bill Burr has a whole joke about it. He's like, I've never killed myself, but there's sometimes when I think like, fuck, I have to go to this holiday party. If I just jump out of this window right now, I don't have to go. Right? Like that's a thought that's not something you'd actually do, but it's a thought.
Oh, okay.
So it's external to us. We as the self determine our like where we get to pick and choose to put our thoughts.
Like what? Like whether we take them serious or not. Like we want those outcomes. So like the external part, that's the part. Like, okay, you mentioned like our thoughts are like external from us, and like you mentioned like we're on a grass patch and like the cars are different thoughts on the highway. But like I think of more of it like we're the sun and everything revolves around like all the like there's like a million different roads that like branch out to different thoughts, because like all my thoughts come from like me as the origin. I'm not on the sideline. So like even like the thing of like me jumping out the window and dying, like I'm still the center paradigm of that thought, So like for sure they come from me. like they're like my versions of like what I think the world is anyway, but like almost all the time it's like John's point of view and like my thought process, even if like I don't choose to do those things, so like I'm like the main root of all my thoughts, so like I don't think they're external.
Can thoughts be provoked?
Yeah, for sure, of course.
So can they be both external and internal?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, like just like they use like the water example, like you can like muddy water, So
Right.
like you can definitely like influence something, But even with the muddy water, it's still the original water. It's still, I don't know. But yeah, you can for sure external thoughts do affect internal. That's a good argument too. But you end up accepting them and making them internal,
Right. I think his argument is that, well, one dynamic of his argument is that these thoughts that people have, looking through them, looking at them with the paradigm of I, takes away from understanding that they also can come, they're also external.
True.
I think
they are external. True.
So like external things like your religious background can influence the way you look at those things, or there's external things that affect your personal, the way you look at things internally.
That's true.
You classify the he talks about ego in here too, but I can't understand or wrap my head around a comprehension of how he's using ego.
Okay.
And so I hear like the internal, external thoughts and where thoughts can come from. And then what I'm kind of putting all this in a box of is just natural, like we're born with the ability to think.
Okay.
And so therefore I am what I think. But he's saying like, you cannot be everything you think, because if you lead with that in mind, then every thought that comes into your mind is you.
Okay.
And I think, so I don't know, my mind just like, it's hard to wrap around a lot of what he's saying because he throws ego in there. It's like, where does ego get classified then?
I thought it was interesting because like Sigmund Freud was alive during the same period who invented ego, the idea and concept of ego. Was alive during Nietzsche's like his period of life. But I didn't know he became so prominent that ego became tossed around because he was born in 1856. This book was written in 1883 or 1886. So within 30 years, ego became like renowned.
Yeah.
I have to reread that part because I don't really have an answer to that.
Yeah, well, it just like this paragraph that I found. It says, I think I find a whole series daring assertions, the argumentative proof of which would be difficult, perhaps impossible. For instance, that is, I who think that there must necessarily be something that thinks. That thinking is an activity and operation on part of a being who is thought of a cause, that there is an ego, and finally that it is already determined what is to be designated by thinking. That I know what thinking is. And so that, like, I was like, fucking,
Yeah.
that is so much.
Yeah.
I was talking about this like with my coworkers the other day, but like just that, like I know what thinking is. I saw this thing on Twitter where it was like I don't know, like a third of the population doesn't have an inner dialogue. So and I don't know how true that fucking shit is, you know. But the thing I was reading was saying like people who don't have an inner dialogue, like the way they think is way more like with imagery. It's like I don't know. It's like I think with imagery too, but I still have a little voice inside my head, so I don't know what that means. But you know, like I guess people think differently.
Yeah.
In here it says key themes and reflections, and the first one is deconstructing the ego. So Nietzsche's argument undermines the common conception of the ego as a cohesive and autonomous entity. By suggesting that thought arises independently of the self, he invites readers to reconsider the role of the ego in shaping identity and cognition. This is a profound critique on traditional metaphysics and psychology.
Feels a little bit nihilistic, like at least how he is presenting his argument. Because this specific chapter feels like a perhaps chapter, or he's not really stating too much. He's just saying like, if you think like this could be what why you think like. So it's not really like clear.
Yeah, it's a perhaps for sure.
He's also saying it's not like totally though, like not perhaps in this case. I think he's honestly saying like, no, like I think and cause and effect aren't necessarily logistical. They're just logistical because we make them like we think they are. It's not like actual like truth, you know. So he's also saying no. Not real. Everything's subjective. Because he says, like, on the last sentence of 16, sir, the philosopher will perhaps give him to understand, it is improbable that you are not mistaken, but why should it be the truth? So it's like, no, like, I don't know. I'm getting more like, this isn't, these are we're not for sure that they're true, but they just make sense to us because we want it to be true.
Yeah, and it makes sense why he continues into the next section, why he stated this one in 16 rather than like later down like near 19, 20, because it makes sense the more you read into like 19, 20, like it makes, to me, it made more sense why he put that one before all the rest of them, because he's setting like the field first before he gets into like the will, and
it's like it's not that simple.
Let's see here. If thought is not caused by ego, what is its origin? How does it arise?
I just keep thinking like natural law, and like that just came like all. It always just goes back to that. I think there was a section where he talks about like just being. We are beings, and so therefore we all have the same ability to be. Like I don't know how to really like, but yeah, like because you're born.
I mean, like thought or like ego raised from thought. It could be like just like the computing power to do like all the mechanics for like survival, like eating, sleeping, like shelter type shit, you know?
Like the basics of Maslow's hierarchy.
And like that could just be like maybe like problem solving, you know? I feel like a lot of our human thought goes to problem solving, and like we just like label things different problems. So, and then like we add ego to it. But
yeah, I would agree. I think in one of these sections he talks about faith versus rational thinking, or like logic versus faith. Sometimes, did you guys look up any of the Italian like some of them, most of
Some
them,
of them were provided.
like yeah. But I started looking those up to see what they meant and why he was using them. But like I have most of them defined. Where when they
Who lives in Europe? He's got French. He's got Italian in there.
he speaks to that logical mind. Like he's like, I think he says somewhere like 21 or something. He says if you were to, I think my paraphrasing what he's saying is like if you're to learn anything from what I'm saying is do your best to operate in a logic mind rather than a faith-based mind.
I've seen that. Yeah, you can see that definitely in here, especially thus spoke Zarathustra.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, I want to dig into an idea. What can you guys describe to me your thinking? How do you think?
How do I think?
There's different forms, I would say, right?
Yeah.
There's like the actionable, like I have to do this today. That's the type of thought that I have all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That would be a thought born of ego in this case. Or I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's that form of thinking that's actionable. And then there's an external form of thinking as well. Like you're watching TV, watching a YouTube video on something about Tacomas, and then you're like, man, I really should get this for the Tacoma. It's also ego in a sense, but it's influenced through external factors. So then that's another type of thought.
So your thought is like influenced by that
An external source.
Would the first one wouldn't the first one be external as well?
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Would be external.
Well, no, not really.
I need to eat.
Yeah, well, like I guess it's like it's always internal until like you engage in something external, whether like talking to somebody or engaging in some sort of like media. But like when I wake up, it'd just be like, I need to do this. I'm gonna go to work, and my plan is to do this, and like every time I interact with somebody, it's like I'm like going back and forth with like external like variables with like how I'm thinking, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. I guess I like the highway example of like staring at the cars going by.
Yeah.
Those are all thoughts. And then like if a car goes by and it's like I don't know, it's different color or something, then it'll direct like my attention will go to that one and all the other cars are just coming by. So I'm like honing in on one thought. But I also try to internally like navigate which thoughts I want to have. So if I know, I don't know, like if I touch my phone or if I start like doom scrolling, it's like it's gonna invoke a bunch of thoughts, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that. So I have to hold some restraint, you know. So to really like keep the flow going of traffic, pulling out the phone like stops the traffic for me.
Stops the traffic for you?
Yeah,
cars.
of the cars that I want to like pass through, you know. I'm like, I have to be mindful of which thoughts I want to have and like think good thoughts, you know?
Yeah, I think
That's as a man thinketh, literally.
Yeah, because like the thing with like the election and stuff, like, you know, there's a lot of people that like stopped everything and they're like, no, like all this is like grabbing my attention and it's gonna invoke a series of emotions and all that stuff. But like, you know, I was like, guys, like the sun is out, go do something good for yourself, you know, like think good thoughts. Or
I was thinking like there's an opportunity cost with our thoughts we choose to operate on, like the thought of being hungry. You still have choice, but then it gets into different like dialogue. But yeah, that's at least how I think. Like when you have like if you're sitting on a highway or the side of a highway and you see thoughts and you let them all go by, there's actionable ones like I am hungry that you're not going to let go by without giving enough focus to satisfy that internal. But there are ones where if you look at this car that goes by and another car that goes by, there is this opportunity cost at which one should I focus on, because there is a underlying like this one is more valuable than that one, but I still have a choice on which one I want to choose to think on.
This makes me think of that Marcus Aurelius, like die your soul is died by like the thoughts that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to think
Your thoughts are died by
your soul is dyed by the colored thoughts or something like that.
Vice versa, though, too.
Yeah.
I think that's what Nietzsche is trying to say, in a sense.
Mhm.
Your thoughts are dyed by what the soul is as well. All right, 17.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anything else?
I think we killed that one.
Yeah, that was this. Yeah, a little tough, but
17.
Jay, just rip it. What's your summary? And send us off that way.
what's our summary? All right. Let's see here.
It's like we kind of tied the two together, really,
Yeah.
with all our talking. I feel like we tied 17 to 16.
Yeah.
What do you think?
At the bottom of that, at the bottom of 17, when he refers to the little one, is he referring to I, the active? Is he referring to, is he referring to the little one as our thought, or us as a being, like as a human?
The ego or the subject is the little one.
So that would be us.
That'd be
the
us.
person.
The ego, the individual.
Okay.
Nietzsche predicts the philosophical evolution where thinkers move beyond the need for an ego or subject, the little one.
That's what I had the same. I thought that's what he was saying, and I think
Yeah.
he refers to the little one because more rigorous, in his quote, more rigorous mind. And when I think of rigor, I think of more people that are stoic or people that can abide by their principles.
Rigor?
Yeah, like they're strenuous. They're very like
Doesn't that mean like they work hard?
yeah, like rigorous is like a
They're so to be rigorous to like your philosophical thought is that you stick to your code.
yeah. You live by your code, you die by your principle. Like
Right.
So that's why I think you refer to like people that don't live by their code as little ones, or like people that let ego control them. I'm putting
Everybody
it super
has the
simple, yeah.
little one, yeah.
And the people that let it control them is the little one. That's why I wanted to ask that question, because I think he's referring to little ones as people that are.
No, the ego itself is the little one, right? So he said it says here, shit. Just as science has outgrown the simplistic concept of indivisible atoms, philosophy can transcend the egocentric model. So, being able to separate philosophy from the ego.
Can you separate philosophy from ego?
I think that's what he's trying to get across. Because in the first section, he's also stating, he states
16.
16.
Wouldn't
What was the question, John, again? What did you say?
can you separate philosophy from ego? And then I would say like philosophy is just like the most perfect version of ego that we can imagine by ourselves.
How so?
Well, like, what is philosophy? It's like trying to understand how to think, and then it's like at what best way to think. So at what best way to like aim yourself, which is like all from the paradigm of being a human, which is you having an ego. So it's like if I could point this in the best possible direction, and like in a utopia, but for like ideas, this is what it'd be like. Or this is the reality of it. But yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, because I hear what you're saying, John. I think I don't know. I could be wrong. I think this is what he's also. I think he's contradicting that what you're stating. He says in 16, he says, "I would repeat it, however, 100 times that immediate certainty, as well as absolute knowledge, and the thing itself involve a contradiction. We really ought to free ourselves from the misleading significance of words." And so I don't know. That's just, I think that's how I'm interpreting what he said. But I agree with more of what like Don saying. Like I think our philosophical approach, our principles, and like the things that get us through what we have to go through, like are what we stand on as like people, as humans. Like and we create that by having philosophical thoughts or having like the ability to play with your thoughts, be able to like figure out where do you need to create the standard.
I mean, in so many ways, like your ego is actually like probably enhanced if you have like a firmer philosophy, you know, or a more rigorous philosophy of like you wanting to uphold it.
I think of philosophy as the birthplace of science because all it is asking questions. And by asking questions, you develop a foundation for your way of thought and your way of making decisions. It's kind of what I think of as a philosophy as. So I think there are forms of philosophy that are separate from the ego. I can look out into the world and see the way the animal kingdom conducts itself and make a determination on how life is and on the planet separate from me.
Okay.
You know, animals, predators, prey, and there's animals that get killed by other animals. It's just the way that it acts. So I would say that there is separation of ego from philosophy in certain areas. And I think what Nietzsche is trying to say is it's important to take that into the context of trying to apply it to humans.
True.
That most people don't take into account because it starts with I, rather than discussing the various factors that play into the painting of
True. That was good, Jay. That was very good.
Yeah.
18.
All right.
All right. I need the restroom really quick. I'll be right back.
Kernel theory. Let's see.
Dude, I ate some edibles before this, and I didn't know how strong they were. And I was like, I'm so high. Like I was like, I didn't think it was gonna be like this, but I'm good now. I pulled through. Pulled. But there was a time in there. I was like, whoa.
Within the past hour or what?
Pass out? No, just like I just was just so high, like trying to talk about 16 and being like, I was like, dude, my brain's like not working. I was like.
When did you take it?
Like, oh, I probably took it like maybe like an hour and a half ago, you know?
Right. It's just kicking in.
No, I pulled through it now. I think I'm all good now. I'm on the come down now. But
You were thinking of no ego, bro. It was just fucking you're clean slate for a second.
it was me being like, you need to stop getting so high. Like you can't even think right now.
Honestly, it's starting to get really repetitive for me. Like the more I look at the key ideas, he's just rehashing the same concept that like philosophers oversimplify reality and your identity, cause and effect, the things we think of like natural law. We're leaving out the deeper or we're not acknowledging the deeper complexities of like our instincts that lead us to those conclusions. But he's like, they're not conclusions. Not real.
They are not.
Free will. He's like, what free will? We don't know.
Well, I think there is free will. Okay, that's right. What we're doing, 18.
I'm exercising parts of my brain I didn't even know I had.
Right.
Philosopher.
I mean, do you guys not believe in free will?
I think we have free will.
I believe in free will.
I can see the argument against it though.
Yeah, I'm trying to like.
All right, send me.
Everything is cause and effect. Do we agree?
Yeah. Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So there are a bunch of causes that created you as a human being or built you into who you are now.
Okay.
And the effects of your decisions going forward are based on the causes that occurred prior.
Yes.
In that paradigm, your decisions are predetermined.
No, they're not. Because
That's
like
it. You put in an output, not a process phase.
at every one of those moments, like it could have gone a million different ways. You know, like even right now, like I feel like I'm juggling with like, what do I actually want to do? I don't know yet, but I'll decide once I get there. You know,
Right.
and I've already done like the math on like if I do this, this happens. If I do this, this happens. And I'm like, I still haven't decided like what I want to do. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's like all like what John decides. And that from that moment moving forward, then there's a bunch of different like causes and effects. But like at each one of those like things where those things happen, like I'm like I don't know, like and like you can kind of see visions of the future of like the different scenarios, and you choose which one, and then like the actual causes and effects do happen, and like they may be different from the scenarios that like you kind of ran in your head prior to making that decision, you know. But then from there, you like go and make a new one. It's like always kind of like a dance with like your simulation and like what actually happened, you know?
Yeah, it's like the Jordan Peterson when he says we all create that avatar and play it out in our head.
For sure we do. For sure we do. And then like how close we are to like what we envision is like, and like how capable we are of like envisioning different versions of that is like how we like move on in the future, you know? Like for example, and like just to kind of like play around with it, but like the other thing is like too many thoughts, like the analysis paralysis thing, you know?
Right.
So like just action.
Does free will require proactivity?
I think the best use of free will is like with like maxed out proactivity, you know?
Do you have free will if you live purely reactive?
I would say just your free will would be like your reactions you choose to do, but like I feel like the level of free will you have would be diminished.
So free will is the opportunity you have when you have multiple options. You have free will in executing any of your options.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, yeah, like the more options you have, like literally the more free will you like the power of like which way do you want to go, you know?
So it's like it's definitely a thread that exists in all humans.
Free will.
Free will.
Yeah.
Because everybody has free will to execute an option.
For sure.
You'll always have an option. There's never not a time you won't have an option.
Right. So then it's free will is inherent in every human being.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. You know,
Yeah.
and like
it doesn't matter what context you put the options in, there will always be an option that you're just
okay. Let me ask this question: do you guys think Ace, my dog, do you think he has free will?
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think so? I think he chooses to like want to live like in a high level symbiosis to what I'm doing, you know? But like but he still does his own thing still, you know?
He has the option to listen when you tell him to come or not.
Correct. And he chooses to because like one, he's learned about like cause and effect first off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think he has free will, right?
What would be the difference between, let's say, a dog like Ace versus a straight or like a wild dog that's been able to live its whole life in the wild?
He's probably got higher levels of free will.
More
honestly.
More often.
Yeah. More options. Like for example, like Ace is the inside the house at least 8 hours a day. So his options are like I can sleep, or I can chew on this thing he left me, or I can do this, you know?
Couch,
And
do the shoes.
well, he won't do that because he's learned cause and effect, you know?
Yeah.
But like all of his options are like gates that I open for him. I go, which ones do you want to choose? You know?
Right.
But like and he chooses, I guess, to live within those options. But like when I let him off leash, for example, and like they're like I pretty much give him like a freedom to do a bunch of things. I'm not making him stay next to me, all this stuff. Just on his own accord, he chooses to want to like satellite me the entire walk, you know?
Right.
That's free will too. Like I literally be like, you can go as far as you want, and he still wants to be like, where are we going? I want to keep like I want to have like a broader scope of what I'm checking out, but that's like free will. Like he wants to go check out these things, but also he's like, I need to be near you, you know?
Right.
Like,
okay, so it's not limited to humans.
yeah, for sure.
Free will is a feature of all living things.
For sure.
Plants.
I've seen those things about how plants move and like how they talk to each other. So like I would say I think plants have a higher level of free will than like maybe we fully give them credit for.
Right. I mean, they've studied redwood migrations, and they're even preferential to certain areas, you know?
Yeah, the thought of the opposition of free will is very like
It's a tough
dark. It's fucking like, I don't know. I just like there's no free will. Like that's slowly it really goes dark.
This is for 18, right?
There is, I definitely do believe it. Like cause and effect is a real thing. I think to some degree I don't think Nietzsche is totally accepting that cause and effect is a real thing. But like the first cause would be like something like the Big Bang, like it just happened, right? But there was an effect from that, so there is a cause. The universe isn't just is without meaning, you know. And I think that's kind of like it's somehow tied in there. I think, you know, like first instance, the first like reason, you know, and like with God, there is a cause and effect. Like God is the first cause. Like He made the chaos of the universe and like gave it order, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we abide within the order, or I don't know. This conversation get really like deep. Where you abide within the order, or you abide within the creations that you have, like within.
There is order to the world. Yeah.
Well, I saw. I think it was like Norm Macdonald. He like tweeted this, but what's that black scientist name? Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying something like how like man can't comprehend the universe because of like our own ego, and if we would disappear, like the universe wouldn't know. And Norm Macdonald was like, if I understand things correctly, we're literally made from the universe. So the universe is literally experiencing like itself through us. So I like we are the universe and the universe is us, you know, like they're not two separated things.
Aliens.
I asked ChatGPT to argue
like we're not separate from the universe, like we're literally made from it. You know, so like, even our thoughts, like they're not like in a vacuum, you know.
So I told ChatGPT to argue that free will isn't real.
It said, "Shut up, bitch."
Yeah. So the argument that I proposed, the causal laws, where everything's a cause and effect, your effects are cause of your are a product of your cause. That's called determinism. There's an argument it's under the umbrella term neuroscience. The brain makes decisions before conscious awareness. So the key argument is that studies in neuroscience, like Benjamin Libet's famous experiment, suggests that brain activity precedes conscious decision making. This implies that what we perceive as free choice is actually initiated subconsciously before we are even aware of it. Based on like
I mean, isn't that shit just crazy? I mean, like the computer's literally like it's like before it's even done, like booting up with software, it's like sends out like an emergency level of like, we can handle these level of tasks only. You know, it's like you don't even know what's fucking going on yet. Like you're still booting up, and it's like, all right, we can handle this. You know what I'm saying? Like some SOS type of mode, like on your phone. You know?
Yeah, that's wild. Psychological conditioning, influence of external factors. Human behavior is heavily influenced by external factors such as social conditioning, upbringing, and cultural norms. These influences shape our desires and preferences, which then guide our actions. I don't think that gets rid of free will.
And that's what I was gonna say. I don't think that ever gets. It's determining where you like end up. But
Right.
Even then, it's still
You still have the option to make a different choice. Yeah. Evolutionary biology, survival instincts drive behavior. And evolutionary biology suggests that humans are driven by instincts and desires shaped over millennia to maximize survival and reproduction. These instincts constrain what we can choose or desire.
Okay, well, I do kind of believe in the fact that like
That argues against that.
well, no, that like okay, just like on like the biological aspect, like in our genes and stuff, it's like our free will is like based off of like your maximum potential, like what you're born with, like whatever those things are, you know. It's like even if I wanted I couldn't be LeBron James, you know, and I can't be Elon Musk, but like I can make decisions based on who I am, you know, and like max that out or crash that.
Yeah, you're kind of relegated to your bumper bars on life.
Relegated to bumper bars on life, sure. Yeah.
Like you're bowling, everybody's born with bumper bars on their life.
wouldn't.
You can move them, but they're different. Elon Musk's bumper bars when he was born was a lot different than our bumper bars.
Wouldn't that create the eternal life argument that Nietzsche, like the destiny?
No, I don't think so. Because that's his answer to afterlife. This is the answer of like predetermined talent.
Predetermined talent is a better way to put it, is because like, you know, I see a lot of students all the time, and all of them have like different attributes, and like a lot of, you know, like all their decision making is based off of like you just said, their predetermined talent. That's like and you can like harvest, you can like awaken it and like refine it more, but like everyone's like got like a source material that they're working from. Yeah.
All right.
Like what if you're born a little bit slow, you know, like you can't fix that, you know, like
Bro, Adderall. Speed it up.
I'm talking about like you know, like what if you're like a little bit retarded, like just slightly, you know, like
John.
Speed it up.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm asking for a friend, dude. Don't put me in the spot like that.
Fucking speed it up. Speed it up.
Slow. I like how that's the word for it.
Speed up the retarded.
Speed it up. Speed it up. All right, 19. I like this one, honestly. Probably one of the best ones that we read. All right. It says a lot. There's 79, I think, 77 sentences.
All right.
But,
So I wasn't counting, but all right.
So with this one, Nietzsche dissects the concept of willing. So this is where he gets into will, like what he thinks will is, right? So he dissects the concept of willing, unraveling its complexity and exposing the illusions that surround it. He challenges the seemingly intuitive belief that the will is a simple unified force that directs action or directly leads to action. Nietzsche presents willing as a multifaceted phenomenon involving sensation, thought, emotion, and a dynamic interplay of commanding and obeying. This nuanced perspective invites a deeper understanding of human behavior, autonomy, and the sense of agency. So Nietzsche argues that the will is not a singular entity, but a process that integrates various components. Sensation, which is the physical and emotional stimuli associated with moving toward or away from a goal. Thoughts, which is the mental process of deciding or commanding action. And emotions, which is the feelings of power and control tied to the belief that one's will leads to action. Through this analysis, Nietzsche exposes how these components are mistakenly unified under the synthetic term I, creating the illusion of a cohesive and all-powerful will. So the idea of I is comprised of sensation, thought, and emotion. So I think, your sensations, thought, and emotion are thinking.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like he's not wrong. I mean, like, when we say that, like, when we're saying the I, whatever, it is just like a package of those things. If you want to break them down to smaller things, like, I guess those are the things.
He's
They
like,
could be more than those things, though. You know, not really think about it.
so he's like saying, as a man think, it's like that book by Napoleon Hill.
As men think
Napoleon, yeah, as a man think is Napoleon Hill is deterministic, but at the same time, he's moving on his free will. Or
No,
his
the
free-
way you think determines how you utilize free will is what as a man think is. So how I think, the self-talk that I have in my brain determines how I execute on my free will. If I have a lot of negative self-talk, I'm going to execute on my free will.
cause and
negatively.
effect, though, right? You got to those thoughts
Right.
somehow.
As a man thing is like you're the origin or like the conduit of like reality. You know, it's like if you have good thoughts, like you're gonna channel good things. You're gonna execute good. Like you're gonna be better. You know,
Right.
but like you're like a conduit of like good. You know, like strike here. We're pumping out good. You know, like being like a lightning bolt. You know, you're trying to like channel that shit. And you're just being, and by doing that, like also the conduit, you're like outputting good.
So the cause, the effect that you have is determined by your cause, but the cause is determined by your thought process. And your thought process is as a man thinketh. So if you change the way you think, you change the cause, you change the effect.
So Nietzsche says that I is sensation, emotion,
And
and what?
thought.
And thought. Sensation, emotion, and thought.
So there's a section here that says reflection for the modern reader. So for the modern reader, aphorism 19 is a profound exploration of human agency and motivation. Nietzsche invites us to reconsider the narrative about our actions and achievement. Do we truly control our lives, or are we navigating a web of internal and external forces that we only partially understand? By dismantling the illusion of an all-powerful will, Nietzsche encourages a more honest engagement with the complexity of human behavior and the conditions that enable it. So he's saying the will is, so the I will is a product of sensation, thought, and emotion.
I mean, I'm gonna say, yeah, I agree, but also there could be more things into that. Just like the I really is just a package. Like I feel like you could keep adding things into that if you wanted to.
Hmm.
But like those are good things to describe it.
Yeah.
But like the I is already like the one thing. Now he's describing it in 3 things. But I could describe it also in 5 things. You know, I could describe it in 10 things. Like I think I could keep coming up with things that would like be a representation of I, if I wanted to, maybe.
You know, what's interesting, remember how we learned about the 4 dimensions of life from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? So sensation is physical, thought is mental, emotion is social/emotional. That's 3 of the 4 that he just named. So I could say 4 also plays a part. The spiritual aspect also plays a part in the way of the will.
Yeah, I'm picking up in this At least from what we read so far,
See?
he's away from the faith-based thinking.
Right. I mean, he does critique faith in certain areas, but I think he's more going after like scholars because that's the world he came from. So he neglects that, but I do think, you know, it's interesting how he names 3 of those 4 dimensions that we read about in the 7 habits of highly effective people.
True. See, you can add a 4th one in there. Now we just need 1 more to 5. You know.
Right. I think everything falls under that, though.
I like the sentence where it says a man who wills commands something within himself which renders obedience, or which he believes renders obedience.
That made me think of like, so his will to power, he's basically laying out a little bit there. If the will to power is to obey and to command. That's like the teeter-totter. And for me, it just made me think of like, when we're trying to break bad habits, it's the disconnect is like we have a command in our brain, and we want to make a change, but we don't obey.
Yeah,
that's true.
So like the teeter-totter of command versus obey. And the will to power it mentally in that case is an obey command dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of
obey my command, and a lot of times they fucking don't. Yeah, you know.
Straight up, like ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's this internal factor of like, I want to make a change, but there's also an internal factor that's like, I'm not willing to do the change.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, you know, it's like, I'm not going to drink tonight. And it's like, you catch your boy out later. He's like wasted. You're like, fuck. Yes, I know. I know. I had the thought. I just didn't execute the command.
So there's like different parts even of the human psyche.
Yeah, but my mind always it just thinks about the opportunity cost. So like, because we all know the obeying and the command part, or the obeying part is the hardest part.
That's the discipline, right?
That's where the opportunity cost really lies.
What? Tell me
So
what
like,
opportunity cost.
let's say you're weighing either 1 or 2 options and whatever. Like in your own diagram of what you want your life to be, is a best and a worst option. You only know that internally,
right?
But let's say, like, let's use this easy example of drinking. Like, whatever your goal is for the next few months or the next week, to not drink for like, let's say 24 hours or something. I don't know, or to drink for 24 hours. You know the best and worst option. So that's where my mind just keeps thinking of opportunity cost. Internally, you create the value for yourself, but then the obey is where you can make or break your right or wrong decision.
Yeah, the obeying part. That's the part. So it's interesting to think that there's like you know, kind of what Nietzsche's saying is that there's there's a complex feature that comes with the human psyche where, like, let's say just in the obey command paradigm, that you want to make a change, I want to stop drinking, you don't obey, and you end there's a difference there. So there's at least 2 different approaches, and then like it's more complex and multifaceted than we originally think. Because if I is one thing, he's saying it's made up of a bunch of different things. So let's say it's the you know, sensation, thought, and emotion. The thought is deciding or commanding action. I want to stop drinking. The sensation and emotional. So the sensation is the physical and emotional stimuli associated with moving toward or away from our goal. So our buddy's out drinking, and we're like, you know. And so we end up drinking. So that he's showing that that's just kind of an illustration of what he's saying, that it's multifaceted. The I is multifaceted.
Yeah.
So we should be looking at philosophy as more multifaceted rather than
Truth.
than like binary, maybe.
Yeah.
Wrong and right.
Yeah.
Good and evil.
Yeah. Yeah. These chat sections are good. I like these ones compared to the rest of
The last one's good too because he like sums it all up and he's like, "This is what it is. Here's where we're going." Type shit. I thought that was good. All right, Tony.
This is him kind of just like tying into what you're just talking about, how like how philosophy isn't separate from like the natural world, you know?
Yeah.
He's like the collective members of the fauna of the continent. Like fauna means like big mammal. So he's like
No.
right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, fauna is life. Yeah, like animal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think fauna is mammal animal life, but I could be wrong on that. But that's
Well,
for sure.
Plant matter. Fauna is life, organic.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah.
What why the first I think it's like the first sentence into there's no pages. It's on the second page of 20. There's a sentence at the top. Why do you think he says as a collective members of the fauna of the continent is betrayed in the end by the circumstance? How unfailing the most diverse philosophers always fill in again a definite fundamental scheme of possible philosophies.
Because I think I wrote down like circumstance defines philosophy. And that's like kind of what he's thinking. So
For me, Dev, how he says like it betrayed like the circumstances that like out of all the fauna, out of all the life, the only thing that is like putting labels to philosophy is there's like humans, you know, and like a lot of the philosophies like we're discarding all of them and like are like trying to like organize the world, you know. So the way when I read that, it was just like we kind of betrayed every other living thing, like when we're trying to like organize, like what's thinking all about.
is it a betrayal though? I feel like that's like a negative way to spin off of it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think we're definitely thinking of our circumstance, but that's all we can do. So
Well, I mean, like, no, remember that the book we just read when there's like multiple chapters on like mass production farming. Like, we're definitely not thinking about the cows, like how they're living, how they're thinking. We're not thinking of the pigs about how they're thinking, how they're living. I'm like, maybe it's our responsibility being like the highest level of thinking to play that side, you know?
Here's what I think the entirety of this section is. So it's in the first couple sentences. It says that the separate philosophical ideas are not anything optional or autonomously evolving, but in connection and relationship with each other, that however suddenly and arbitrarily they seem to appear in the history of thought, they nevertheless belong just as much to a system as the collective members of the fauna of a continent.
Yeah, that's my main point too. That's why like I asked that end part where he says like, well, I wonder why he says that, like, because
I almost like think about, I think it's Newton, right? I think it's Newton. He's the guy that goes to the
tree.
He's on the islands. I forget what they're called. They're archipelago or something like that. And he sees all the different versions of finches.
You're talking about Darwin?
Darwin. Okay, there's all the different versions of finches. Right? And every finch is special in its own way, right? Some have longer beaks, some have shorter beaks, some have longer legs, some have shorter legs. But they're all versions of the finch, or the finch, right? The same way that fauna can be classified in that way is the same way we can classify philosophical systems of thought. And so if you come from, let's say, a Christian classification of thought, even though we have a difference of ideas, all the different denominations, it's all this form of finch. It's all a finch, right? And okay, let's say it's turtles, right? So now we're looking at things through the Jewish perspective. They're all versions of the turtle. And so we can always trace back philosophical systems of thought to a classification of thought. And so what he's saying is, I think in this one is that no matter how we look at them, they're not all new thoughts. They're all different versions of a Finch.
In that religion context, would it just be religion instead of Finch?
Yeah, it would be yeah, exactly. So the Finch is a arbitrary. It's you can plug and play whatever that is. He's just saying fauna. So that's just the Darwin example. And so what he says here, the wonderful family resemblance of all Indian, Greek, and German philosophies is easily enough explained. So like all the different philosophies that come from Greek philosophers, all the different philosophies that come from Indian philosophers, they're all products. They're all their own classification, and they all boil down to the same similar ideas. So now Nietzsche has become its own classification of fauna.
What do you mean, like this philosophy?
This beyond good and evil that he's about to put out before us. He's just dissecting a bunch of older ones, but now we're getting into parts 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all his now classification. He's defining what it is to look like a Nietzschean classification of fauna.
Nietzschean. Interesting.
And then he even says on that it's influenced by language. So if you're an English thinker, your ideas fall into an English classification of fauna. And people that speak Indian, they have a different classification of language. They have different language. They have different classifications of philosophy, but it all falls into that. And so language can even play a role in philosophical thought.
That's interesting. We're on 20, right?
Yeah, 20. He was talking about me right here. He says, and muscle mans. It's the third sentence from the bottom.
What is that?
I think it's Muslims. Muslims. Indo-Germans and Muslims. All right. I think that covers it pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm biased, but I think that covers that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. 21?
Yeah.
How you guys on time?
21? I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I have this section broken down into 2 parts. I think he added too much in this section to be one standalone section.
Okay.
The first piece is like the first beginning of the paragraphs, especially when he's talking about enlightenment. He says, I beg of him, carry his enlightenment a step further, but also put out of his head the contrary of the monstrous conception of free will. That's one section. And then below that, he goes into talking about the 2 different versions of how to interpret non-freedom and the interpretations of non-freedom of will. So I guess we could start with that beginning part.
A lot of this was free will stuff, and I think we've covered free will pretty well. One interesting thing was he says, he kind of, at least ChatGPT says this, strong versus weak will. Kind of get into that a little bit. So in Nietzsche's framework, the debate over free will boils down to a conflict between strong and weak will. The strong-willed are those who embrace their own sense of command and power, shaping reality through their choices. In contrast, the weak-willed succumb to compulsion, oppression, or external forces, betraying themselves in the process. So in this model, there'd be strong-willed people and weak-willed people, where the strong-willed perhaps are the proactive people, and weak-willed are reactive people.
I was gonna say, and like everything in between too, you know?
Right. Yeah. In this case, I think it's beyond that. I like the idea of strong versus weak will, but I think that every person is like a put together, like a puzzle. And some of those puzzle pieces are strong-willed, and some of those puzzle pieces are weak-willed. And if you have more weak-willed puzzle pieces, you tend to fall into a bucket, like succumb to compulsion, oppression, or external forces. But if you have more strong-willed pieces, you end up living a different life. And I think that's what we're seeing culturally now, is this difference between strong-willed versus weak-willed people.
Yeah, just don't be a pussy.
I will.
I do like how he breaks down the person that maybe, I'm gonna just put in my own words, like struggles with standing by their will. He's like, this person betrays himself.
Yeah.
And in general, if I have observed correctly, the non-freedom of the will is regarded as a problem from two entirely opposite standpoints, but always in a profoundly personal manner. Someone will not give up their responsibility, their belief in themselves, their personal right to their merits at any price. And then he also says, on the contrary, do not wish to be answerable for anything or blamed for anything. So I forget how I got to this point, but at the bottom of that section, there's a Italian word that's law, religion, law, sufferance, humane, and that means religion of human suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And he's speaking to the people that believe that all religion is it's profound to think in that manner that religion is human suffering. I think my thought when I was reading this was that people like philosophers that think this standard of philosophy are the ones that stand by the weak will or the non-free will havers.
The religion is human suffering.
Is human suffering.
Those are the weak will.
And so that's just my interpretation of that from where he talks about strong, weak-willed, and then he goes into the weak, how you get to become weak-willed. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Like here it says the non-free will is mythology. In real life, it is only a question of strong and weak will. It is almost always a symptom of what is lacking in himself. When a thinker in every causal connection and psychological necessity manifests something of compulsion, indignance, obsequiousness, oppression, and non-freedom, it is suspicion to have such feelings. The person betrays himself. The non-free will is mythology. So the opposite of free will, where it doesn't exist at all, is also mythology.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
so the real question is strong versus weak will. So it's not that free will doesn't exist, it's that are you strong or weak will?
Yeah, you're in one or two buckets.
It's not even like,
I don't know.
I mean, it's not even like strong or weak will. It's just like how good of like a pilot or a driver are of like yourself, of your avatar, But I guess that's like strong or weak. Like you have a strong, like in here. I forgot what line it was, but like when Devin was talking, it talked about how like the weak will people, like someone like they don't take responsibility for like the cause and effect of things, and that just made me think about like you see all the time with like younger arrogant people when like they do a bad thing because they like succumb to like the lowest level of thinking, which is like just like opportunist type of level, like they'll get in trouble, but they don't want to accept like any of the consequences of like their mistake, and like they're totally like man, fuck you, fuck this, blah blah blah, and it's just like like that's just a form of weak will, you know, like it was weak will, like making the bad decision. It was weak will, like reacting that way. It was weak will, like not accepting the consequences of like your decision, you know? Um, but like there was will the entire time, or I.
I was thinking earlier, like maybe last week.
I'm gonna grab my charger. I'm still listening. My phone's on the dock.
I was thinking maybe it was a couple weeks ago, but I was like, the decisions to live the boring life, like according to like a younger person, let's say 18, 19, the person, maybe even like a little earlier, but the person that made the decision to do the boring life, I think had to make harder decisions.
For sure.
Like doing decisions that are self-satisfaction, like let's say pleasure oriented, are easy to make. And the person that decides to not do those things makes a harder decision.
No, I disagree. Can I go back and forth with that?
Yeah,
Because the ultimate version of that is like someone who's a coward then, who like never takes any sort of adventure because like it's actually more disciplined not to do those things, you know? Like there's a level of like jumping into the chaos or adventure that like not doing those things like you don't get. Does that make sense? Because like a lot of times I'm come to this paradigm of like kids in high school, like a young kid. A lot of times the people who are labeled good kids are actually just boring kids who don't take risk. You know, being a bad kid doesn't actually mean they're bad. They're saying like they don't assimilate well into like a model, like into like a model that says like based on like your behavior, you know, like how, or more like how obedient you are, you know. But like so like maybe like you said, like the boring kid is actually being like making the hard decision. He's making like the boring decision, which is like you have nothing to gain from a boring decision. Like there's something to be said if you go too far on the other side, you know.
Right.
But you don't want to be a boring coward, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's like a beyond good and evil situation where it's like it's on a spectrum in a sense.
Yeah, it's funny.
For sure, it's on a spectrum. It's like you know, like again, like the good kids. Like, oh, you mean someone who never took a risk, you know?
Right.
Yeah, because I don't think we remember the most. I would say anybody that we can remember off the top of our heads probably have taken a lot of risk in their life. Like I'm sorry, like historians or like people that are like the major figures that we can think about. Like, they're not the people that like,
in our life
sit behind them. They're like, don't do anything risky. At least done something risky at some.
So I wouldn't say it's the harder decision.
So I guess it is. It's just how far you go within being boring versus how far you go with taking the risk. Like
the life of a bachelor at 40 versus the life of a married man at 40.
Okay.
It was a harder decision at the time to be like, I'm going to decide to have a wife and kids, or I'm going to decide to live a bachelor lifestyle.
I think it's what the aim is.
You think it's easy or hard, or it's not? It doesn't even fall on that.
Yeah,
it's harder to be married.
Did you see yourself in the mirror? Did you see yourself in the mirror? That's funny.
Maybe wants that.
Okay. Yeah.
But if the person doesn't want that, then how could that person consider it to be hard at all?
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like it's like I could have. Sure, you could. Should, would have. But you're not aiming for that.
Okay. That makes sense.
So yeah, so it's really hard. It's just hard to tell. It's like it's a loaded.
Yeah. It's more complex than, and perhaps it's more complex.
I guess if you were to tie a bow around it and be like, this is that, like I would for sure, at least in my eyes, I would say, yeah, marriage is harder because there's a complexity of commitment that you can't walk away from or you shouldn't walk away from. So yeah, just on that bias, I would say, yeah, it's probably harder because the opposite is you can jump in and move around as you would. You don't really like you're not tied down or committed to anything.
All right. Let's see. You guys have anything else for 21?
21?
All right. You guys want to jump to 22? How you guys feeling?
All right.
can we move through these and just kind of wrap this up? And like you know,
Why you got to go?
no, I'm just. It's been a while, but I mean, I'm game. I just want to.
Well, I think if we the points I want to talk about from 22 and 23 are the forms of rejection of authority in religion and religion and a political aspect, and where he starts to talk about that, and also in 23 he talks about faith versus reasoning. So we can cover
Yeah,
that.
23, I think, is a big fucking bow tie on the entire, the big Christmas bow on the whole part one.
All right, well, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So 23, I mean, honestly, we could have recounted through it, but all psychology hitherto has run aground on moral prejudices and timidities. It has not dared to launch out into the depths. Insofar as it is allowable to recognize in that which has hitherto been written evidence of that which has hitherto been kept silent. It seems as if nobody has yet harbored the notion of psychology as a morphology and development doctrine of the will to power as I conceive it. And so
Mic drop.
he states there that all psychology has moral prejudice and has timidity. So it's cautious about approaching certain subjects. And it has not dared to launch out into the depths.
Okay.
So evidence has been written, evidence that has been kept silent. It's as if nobody has yet harbored the psychology as a morphology of development doctrine of the will to power as I conceive it. Nobody has thought about it this way. The power of moral prejudice has penetrated deeply into the most intellectual world, the world apparently most indifferent and unprejudiced, and has obviously operated in injurious, obstructive, blinding, and a distorting manner. So even in the most intellectual arenas in human life, they have moral prejudice. It's penetrated even to those areas. So whether that be, college, academia, it's penetrated deep into those fields.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna keep reading, Jeff.
I don't know, like you rereading that part, kind of. I don't know. I think he's trying to state that his point to writing, the meaning to his writing is to prove that I can think outside of my biases.
Outside of the framework of moral prejudice.
That's a bias.
Yeah. That would be a bias. Yeah.
So I think that's what that's what I'm kind of picking up now. Is like he's trying to state to the world that maybe I'm wrong again. I haven't looked into Nietzsche too much, but reading his books, I feel like I pick up a lot. He has a narrative, he has a bias, but he's like, I can stand alone for my bias and tell you this. It seems like he's trying to prove a point for something. I don't know. That's just you rereading that kind of sparked that.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, all y'all are wrong. Here's how I do it.
Yeah, well, not even not even right or wrong. It's just you all stand on your biases in a inclusive manner when you shouldn't do that. And I'm here to tell you why.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, let's see. Let's continue. A proper physiopsychology has to contend with unconscious antagonism in the heart of the investigator. It has the heart against it, even a doctrine of reciprocal conditionalness, of the good and the bad impulses. Causes as refined immorality, distress and aversion, and a still strong and mainly conscious, still more so, a doctrine of the derivation of all good impulses from bad ones.
That's so much.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Oh gosh.
Antagonism. That's opposing force. Has to contend with an opposing force in the heart of the investigator.
I think he's just talking about us be able to make good and bad choices, and avert from the bad choices.
I think the next sentence is really, really good too. If, however, a person should regard even the emotions of hatred, envy, covetousness, and imperiousness as life conditioning emotions, as factors which must be present fundamentally and essentially in the general economy of life, which must therefore be further developed if life is to be further developed, he will suffer from such a view of things as from seasickness. I don't know. I'm gonna shoot from the hip here, but I feel like he's what I'm getting is like I wrote down like he talks about sacrifice at the end. Never yet did a profounder world of insight reveal itself to daring travelers and adventurers, and the psychologist who thus makes a sacrifice will at least be entitled to demand in return that psychology so much more be recognized as the queen of sciences, for whose service and equipment the other sciences exist. So he's like, I think he's also saying like, this is gonna involve like shooting into the depths of psychology, and like the answers or meanings of life is gonna require sacrificing your quote unquote intellect, or what has been thought of until this point as the origins of like metaphysics, and in that is morality, you know, good and evil, but we have to sacrifice some of those things in order to think and like really shoot into that, like those new waters, you know.
Yeah, we're thinking separate between we're thinking separate of the binary of good and evil.
Yeah. And he said it's like seasickness to people who think that like they have to sacrifice that because it's like making them feel uneasy. It's like, oh no, you know, like
It's against their like constitution.
yeah.
Yes.
Like those regarding things like hatred, envy, and covetousness, like which we would say are bad things.
Right.
Those have to be present in the world for some like reason for life to carry on. It's not essentially totally evil, you know. So
Yeah. I think that's a good way to, I think you wrapped that up well.
necessary evil. I don't know.
Or they're not even evil.
Not even
You
evil.
could covet your friend's car, and then you could be like, I'm gonna kill him and take his car. Or you could be like, what do I have to do to get that car?
It's Raskolnikov, bro. That's Raskolnikov talking.
Exactly.
About. Yo, dude is like not that bad.
Yeah.
She's an old crone.
beast.
Yeah, she's an old bitch. It's all good. I was gonna give the money away anyways. It's fine.
All right. Anything else?
That's one thing that's cool about Dostoevsky. He does all his thinking through like a story, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was very cool. Anything else from 23? He's like, you all have biases. Here's how they could potentially be wrong.
Hitherto,
Your bias doesn't allow you to see that some things that you determine are bad or evil could in fact be good in certain cases. Signature mic drop.
morality is not subjective.
Some things though are concrete though, you know? Some things are concrete, I swear.
Like what?
Okay, well like you like fucking a child, you know? That all cultures that make that's bad, you know? How
Not
can
all-
you say like
Not all cultures.
but like we look down on those cultures, you know?
Subjectively.
Is it subjectively?
I think it's wrong, but fucking Farouk
The further
Daddy
east-
might think differently.
The further east you go, shit get a little weird, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're wrong for that. Right?
I agree.
You're saying it's our subjective.
Our subjective belief is that that's wrong, and I believe that's wrong. But okay.
Floyd likes to throw that one in. He's like, the age of consent isn't even like talked about like in the Bible. He's like, there's some weird shit that happens in the Bible. And I was like, yeah.
For sure. I mean, certain religions, their person had child wives. You know,
Wait, they don't ever. It doesn't state anywhere like that should be frowned upon, or like in the Bible that child.
It isn't
directly mandated.
it isn't saying like 18 years old.
Right.
Well, not
well, yeah.
Maybe.
Don't say that.
like a young child. It doesn't. Say.
But like you would say like wifing up like a 15-year-old is like fucking horrible. You know what I mean? But that's not
This day and age, yeah.
yeah, it's changed.
But
But
it was accepted.
so his argument was like saying that not all moral decisions that we have now are actually found in the Bible, even though some people argue that it explains all morality, you know? But I don't know. That's just it.
So,
Yeah.
what did you guys learn from part one?
Nietzsche's a bit.
Nietzsche is going hard on critiquing all philosophy, and he's bold enough to like step out into those new waters, you know. It's probably made him extraordinary.
I am under the water. I cannot swim.
Well, we said what I learned. I mean, I thought you highlighted really well about like how there's actually a ton of philosophy outside of the I, you know, and I find myself like totally just forgetting like that whole side of like the philosophy, you know, about like all the other life, how like we really are just one part of it. So that was a good highlight, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of times I think of like, and we can't help it, but I think of things through like the human lens, you know,
Right.
and like, and more in particular, my lens, and like maybe I could like simulate other people like that are close to me, but mostly it's just like me and my closest people around me.
Right.
Yeah.
I think just him bringing the awareness of cognitive biases to like science and religion and like faith or logic, like how we got to this point is a good, just an addition to, I guess, how would you put this? Like a reopening of that space in one's mind. Like just kind of, he's recognizing that most people are running the world with their own cognitive biases, whether you like it or not. And the older you get, they get stronger and stronger. So I think it's good that we read books like this, so we kind of like get a peek behind the curtain of like how Nietzsche got to a point where like, if he is stating that he's removing his bias, or he has a bias, but he's also trying to state like I have a bias and like maybe you shouldn't have one because it gives you the ability to think outside of your own box. I think it's good to read stuff like this. So, yeah.
True.
What I've gathered from part one is that philosophies of the past put things down into almost a binary mode of thought where there's good, there's evil, there's right, there's wrong, there's correct, there's incorrect. And looking at the world and philosophy or practicing philosophical ventures in that frame of mind leads to issues. And it's more important, or it's better to practice philosophy in looking at it as a multifaceted, complex system of ideas or complex system of thought. And it's important to take those into account when creating your own philosophy. It goes beyond the binary of correct or incorrect, but there's, rather than black and white, it's more of a gray zone. And it's important to take into account all the different factors that create the color.
That's true.
Part one.
That feels like that was part one to me.
Yeah.
And part one was just putting every philosophy under a microscope and highlighting how it's wrong, or could potentially be wrong, perhaps.
That's to summarize it for sure.
Perhaps. So part two is titled "The Free Spirit." I think we're actually going to start getting into some of Nietzsche's philosophy now, where we're stepping into his brain and his system of thought. And so I'm pretty excited to read about that. Part one, I give a out of 10, solid 8. It was interesting to kind of learn about some historical figures and some of their philosophical thought, and then be able to put some like wrenches and crowbars in there and actually start to pick apart the idea. I thought that was really cool. It prompted our thought.
I would say reading it 6, talking about it 8.
Yeah. Reading it's tough.
Yeah, like 6 might even be high, maybe like 5 reading it, just because like I like it, but then if you're just reading it, it seems kind of repetitive, you know. when we're talking about it, we can kind of like glue a couple of them together and talk about them as like a package. But yeah,
Honestly, it's like we're in his brain. Like there's no structure in terms of like, hey, there has to be complete sentences or there can't be run-on sentences. It's literally like inside somebody's brain. Like
but
that I just talked about. It was just a bunch of commas. It wasn't a period.
but you know what's funny? Because like I lent my copy of Meditations to a friend and I asked for it back because he hadn't finished it and it's been a long time. So time for me to have it back. And like talking about being in someone's brain, like so I've been like flipping through the book and like reading the stuff I highlighted, reading my notes to it, and like reading that book, you're in the side of Marcus Aurelius's brain, and being inside that brain is way more calming. Like
Right.
like everything has its rightful place.
Right.
Like don't worry about it. Like you got this, guy.
Yeah.
You know, and like Nietzsche's like, forget everything, you know nothing, everything sucks, but also it could be good. I don't know. You know, it's like wah wah wah. I don't know.
Bro.
You know nothing. You're a retard.
All wrong. Here's how it was wrong.
All wrong.
Free will, wrong.
He's uncle. He's uncle on Thanksgiving dinner.
In fact, you're dumb if you think it. The stupidest, you might say.
It might have been stupid.
You've messed up bigly.
He probably hated Meditations. Honestly, he probably read that shit and was like, "Well, was it even out like by then?" Because it took
1800.
It was out in 1800. Well, no, I know, but like Meditations, like even though Marcus Aurelius wrote that super long ago, like it wasn't until like the church like put it back out into the world to read. You know,
It had to be.
look it up. Look at when Meditations hit the world again.
Meditation.
It's a Yelp review.
Look up when the Meditations like hit being a book, not like when he wrote it.
Available to the public. I feel
When it was when it was published.
When it was at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it hit Borders, right? The earliest documented. Oh wait, hold on.
I mean, you're probably right.
First recorded mention of Meditations was in the 4th century, so 300 year. It's like 300.
The year 300.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's like right around when he wrote that shit. He wrote that shit like 150 AD or some shit.
And so
Caveman days.
the earliest reference is by Themisthius in the 4th century CE. So it must have been available and known if it was referenced in 300s.
True. All right. Nietzsche read Meditations and he was like, this fucking guy. That's like the entire time.
Hey, I'm surprised he hasn't fucking mentioned Marcus Aurelius.
I think he has.
He mentions Stoicism for sure.
And then I mean, come on, that's
But there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of
Stoicism.
big. Yeah.
Stoicism.
Yeah, I went down the fucking TikTok has picked up that like I read shit like this because I use ChatGPT. You know how it should just somehow tracks and
It's like
this fucking guy, he breaks down all these like you know how they do the tier system of like
S tier, A tier.
the nihilist tier of philosophers is fucking dark, dog. Like we think Nietzsche is like someone that's like perhaps, oh no, you Nietzsche. Dude, he was explaining, I don't even know their names, but they're just so like nothing should exist. Us humans don't even understand what our thoughts are. It's just what the fuck. And then Marcus Aurelius was at like
Bro, who reads shit like that? All right, I'll meet the restroom one more time and then we'll get into some questions.
Columbine shooter.
Dude, I'm like,
recommended books.
seriously. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Everyone, they're wrong.
You're right.